Welcome to the Gorgeous Gray podcast. I am Nicole Scott, your host, registered holistic nutritionist, rest mindset coach, author of the Gorgeous Gray movement, and the co-creator of the Menopause Reset program. In this podcast, we have real conversations about aging as a woman and all the pressure and uncertainty we feel as we head into menopause and beyond. Let's face it, aging is not an easy conversation to have. But I say it's time to talk about the messy middle and offer hope when we feel like giving up on ourselves. Let's talk about our fears around gray hair, our muffin tops, and even our dry, itchy vaginas and everything in between. I will help you reconnect to your feminine energy and offer real solutions from experts in their field to navigate aging as a woman. I believe we, as women, deserve to shine even brighter in this next chapter of life. So with a sense of humor and a lot of compassion, let's dive into these vulnerable conversations. There we go. Okay. Hello, Gorgeous Gray Silver Sisters. Thank you so much for joining another episode with one of my good friends that we met on Instagram, and her name is Kathleen. Thank you, Kathleen, for being here.
Oh, Nicole, thank you. It's so great to see you. Oh my gosh, to see you, we've had some great meetings together, live and in person, but obviously lovely to see you here, and so happy that you invited me to join your podcast today. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, we met last year through this beautiful community, and I'm just so grateful.
Yeah.
We've had a number of connections in person. We've gotten to hug each other and do some funny, silly reels together. And you can definitely follow her on Instagram. And she actually has her Instagram tag right there in the screen. And I'm going to try to pronounce it because this is a new word in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's woo, right?
Yeah. Yeah, woo, silver, yes. And it means a relief, like, whoa, yeah.
I love it. It's so unique and original. And this is the quote that she has on Instagram, and I love it. I love Brene Brown. I think she's brilliant. Is connection, the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment. Brene Brown. Let's talk about that. Let's start that conversation. What does that mean to you, and why did you put that on Instagram?
Well, just like you were saying, I love Brene Brown. I mean, there are so many quotes that we can take from her. She's just incredible. But for me, it really set in my mind sort of the framework of how I see the Silver Sister community, is that we are this wonderful group that connects we're connected through various platforms, but certainly on my end, Instagram. And it also allows us to share our stories. And when you look and you're part of the Silver Sister community, there's no judgment. We're there supporting each other. We are cheerleaders for each other. It's just great from that standpoint. So it really spoke to me about the community itself.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, let's dive in and have a conversation just around your silver hair journey. When did it start? What was the trigger to say no more? I'd love to just dive right in and hear your
Sure. So my first silver hair started when I was 14. And it was sitting outside, and someone said, "Oh, I think you've got a gray hair." No. There's no way I have a gray hair. Absolutely not. And it was like, no, you do. And it was like, pluck here. And so from that point, it didn't take long. So by my 20s, I was doing the low, the darker low dye or low highlights. And then by the time I was in my 30s, it was full on color. And then, of course, a variety of colors. I was a redhead, I was chestnut brown. My natural color is more like a auburn sort of brunette. And then when it was 3 weeks of color, someone said, my hairdresser said, "Why don't you go blonde? And then you can go for longer periods of time without having it colored." I thought, oh, how great would that be? And so then, of course, I did that. And, it was one of those things that the way my silver hair grew in, it was very white on the temple. So the moment I would do this, you would see the silver hair. And
Right.
I am not saying anything that no one else has said. That panic sets in. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I've got to go in, I've got to get it
Ah,
colored. You do a big sigh. Exactly. It was that constant sort of treadmill of stuff that we were always conditioned to believe, oh my gosh,
mm,
we can't let it be seen.
yeah.
And so, well before COVID, I had had conversations with my hairdresser about letting it grow out.
Mhm.
And the response was, oh no, I don't think the color is going to be very nice. It's going to make you look
Mm,
older.
yeah.
It's, the list, and we've all, I would say all of
Mhm.
us have heard it. And so you hesitate, you don't do it.
Yeah.
But there was something in me that kept saying, no, I really don't like this. I
Yeah.
really want to be, not a big fan of using the word authentic, but I
Yeah.
wanted to be more natural. I
Mhm.
wanted to feel like me. And I
Yeah.
felt that, the blonde hair wasn't me anymore.
Mm,
And so I started growing it out before COVID even started.
yeah.
And then, of course, COVID gave the perfect opportunity to let it grow. And at the time, I was living out west, so our lockdowns were not as severe as they are here in Ontario. And I was able to go to the hairdresser and say, can you just sort of do a transition color? And I trusted that it was going to be done where I could just let it go.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the color, and I'm not exaggerating, I felt like a smurf. It had gone blue. And
Oh no.
I was just like, oh, no, there's no way I can let this grow out. I mean, it
Yeah.
was really blue. And so I went back and I said, cut it off.
Okay.
So the funny thing is that I've had really short hair since COVID.
Okay.
Now I'm letting it grow out because I'm really curious to see, what does my gray hair
Right.
or silver hair look like? Like what,
Yeah.
does it have sort of natural highlights in
Yeah.
it? What does it look like? So it's a little shaggy at the moment, but hey, so that was sort of, letting it grow out.
Mhm.
But
That's
yeah.
awesome. And I can relate to the blue hair. I know when I was in a fairly new relationship, and he said every time you came back from the hair salon, I felt like I was dating a new girlfriend because my hair was, orange, and like I was probably
Yeah.
very dark like you, and you go through the color change if you're trying to like
Hmm.
add the highlights, right? So
Hmm.
it was like, and I look back now in my transition and some of my colors, and it was like, oh my gosh, I was like Smurf orange.
Oh, yeah. It's just, I mean, the things we do, you think about it, and I mean, I've heard some women have the full intent of going silver and
Yeah,
transitioning their hair by
yeah,
by making it blonde,
yeah,
and their hair breaks.
yeah,
Everything that they thought
yeah,
that they had in terms of growth
yeah,
snaps off because
yeah,
the chemicals are so strong to try to get to your natural color.
yeah,
So, I mean, anybody who is wanting to do this, I mean, I'll
yeah,
say this to the folks that are in
yeah,
sort of in the wings thinking, do they want to do this?
yeah,
Absolutely embrace it. It is an incredible experience to feel that sense of freedom, to
yeah,
feel that sense of self, to, really embrace and accept who you are today and where you are
yeah,
today. And you know what? If you've got dark hair at the bottom, it's kind of cool,
yeah,
let it go. Have
yeah. It
fun with
is
it.
cool, right?
But the
Yeah.
blue for me was no. That was my line in the sand. Not going to do the blue. So
So great. Well, I'm so glad. Let's talk a little bit about your experience of interviewing with this hair and the gray. We talked about it personally
yes.
about like how did that show up for you? Because I know that's one of the biggest things I hear from women is like, will I get the job? Should I be worried about like the
Hmm.
job? Should I dye my hair? and then worry about it once I get the job and I prove myself. It's almost like this self-worth conversation that somehow our hair color is going to either allow us to get this job or not, which I think is just mind-boggling. But I'd love to hear your story about your experience.
Well, thank you for asking, because I think there's a little bit to unpack here. So when men have silver hair, they look distinguished. They look wise. There's all of these very friendly words attached to silver hair. And certainly in Canada, the story of Lisa LaFlamme's silver hair and losing her job really hit a very raw nerve in the Silver Sister community. And what I thought was really interesting was, companies like Dove and Wendy's really embraced silver is cool. There shouldn't be any issues associated with that. All of that is true. However, you still have this inkling in your head that maybe will I be positioned with the, there still is that association with silver hair being old. It's so much better now, but people do sort of make that switch. So my hair, as I mentioned, it's sort of growing out at the moment, but it was quite short and funky. But during the interview, I never referenced anything in my personal life. I didn't talk about children or the age of my children. I didn't talk about being a grandparent. I didn't talk about any of those things because I didn't want that mindset to even be introduced. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's the way I managed that because you don't want to not get the job. So that's how I looked at it. And now, obviously, I've been with the company for a while. They know that I'm a grandparent and all of those things. But at first, I hesitated. 100% did.
I think a lot of women are, well, we're up against it's not equal. It's not equal. And so the Silver Sister community is trying to equalize this conversation. And that's why I love it so much, because to me, we're kind of like passing the baton to the younger generation.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm in Mexico right now. And the other day I went and got my nails done as a treat. And there was a lady that was behind me getting her hair dyed. And of course, I always find, and you probably find this too. As soon as you walk in, there she is getting her hair done. And she's like, oh my gosh, you have such beautiful gray hair. And then she goes, my daughter's 37 years old and she's embraced her gray hair. And I'm so proud of her. And she's so brave. And I'm not ready to do that. But it opened up this most beautiful, non-judgmental conversation. I felt like I had like this sister, a new friendship of somebody in my community that I was like not judging her at all for coloring her hair. But it just generated this most beautiful unfolding conversation that like the whole salon got involved, and it was so good. And it's
so true. It's so true, Nicole. Like I find, there is certainly a level of excitement when you see somebody who has silver hair. I mean, walking down the street, and go, oh yeah, there she is. There, it's like, and you sort of pick up the pace and you want to go, hi, But I think it's also something that at what point are we going to have the opportunity to say, well, oh, I'm a blonde. Oh, I'm a brunette. Oh, I'm silver. Oh, I'm this, there's a whole need for there to be a reframing around that. But I don't know if we'll ever get there. We might eventually. We're certainly better. I love the fact, I mean, I see these incredible women on Instagram that are in their 30s with phenomenal silver hair. And you know what? I don't know if you've said this to yourself, but I say, gosh, I wish I had done it earlier. Right? Oh, because I certainly had, I had a lot of silver at that point. And but I really, really bought into
Yeah.
it's going to make you look older. It's going to make you do this. And I don't feel that I look older with
Yeah.
silver hair.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you look great and healthy. And I know you take care of yourself. And this is going to lead us into the next conversation. But yeah, I hear you. I was, I think, 33 years old, and I literally remember being in the shower with healthy hair dye from the health food store running down my naked body because I
Yes.
was rinsing it out.
Yeah.
And as a nutritionist, I'm going, what the F, Nicole? Like, you know better.
Yeah.
Like, I started to ask around. Biggest mistake, asking your friends and family, what do you think? And you know the
Right.
answer. Women, you know the answer. We are wise beyond our years. We have our own intuition and our own yes or no. I already knew the answer, but I was looking for my friends and family for validation. And guess what some of my best friends said? Don't do it. Your husband looks 20 years old. You put a baseball cap on him, he still gets ID'd at the liquor store. So if you went gray, you would be, this was you would look like his mother. Do you want to look like his mother? And the fear of me as a 33-year-old went, no, I don't want to be his mother.
Yeah.
And that was it. I shut my intuition down. I shut it, and I buried it. I was like, oh my gosh. And even intuitively at that point, I started writing back then. I had titles of my book, and I was like, I got to write a book about this. But I let the influence of other people not only close the chapter to a book at the age of 33, and it didn't come until I was 47 years old. So it's almost like I had it in a little secret, like that little box, and I threw the key away because a couple people told me no. How many people live their life like that and then realize that they just missed out on magic and a movement and an opportunity? So biggest regret was listening to a few people feedback from what I already knew the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you, Nicole, because I've said to people, it's more than just hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is this whole level of accepting who you are right now, today. Part of who you are is your silver hair.
Yeah.
I don't wear a lot of makeup. I'm not trying to pretend I'm any younger than I am.
Yeah.
All of it is this whole, acceptance, but it's also saying to yourself, somebody may have their own opinion. Yeah. I don't have to own that opinion.
Right.
I know who I am. And, that to me is really important too. And you see a lot of that communication of those messages within the Silver Sister community of, others can say whatever they want about you, but don't hold on to that. And it's the same thing, we believed we took what other people thought. I'm not saying you don't take advice from others, but there comes a point when, what is it that is important to you and means something to you, and don't allow the judgment of others to influence your choices.
Absolutely. Like, it really, when you think about it, is these generational patterns that keep on getting passed, right? To men, to women, to children. And the silver movement to me is like this almost like cutting of the cord, is to say, we're done with the stereotype. We're done. And I really believe that it is creating this ripple effect so that this younger generation will have less pressure and more choice at whatever age that looks like for them, because they have so many mentors now that have gone through the cutting of the cord. That's the way that I look at it, which I think is pretty freaking amazing. Of what we're doing.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's one of the women I follow, Louisa, she's down in Australia, and she did a really interesting post recently on Instagram where she said, we going to get negative feedback from somebody? Possibly. Somebody may say, well, it makes you look 20 years older.
Yeah.
And she referenced that, and she said, but that's somebody who might be 70 or 80. Do I want somebody to make me feel that I look bad at 70 or 80? Right. No. And I think it's so important to also think about that bigger picture as well is, you know, we don't want to say, no, it doesn't make me look old, because then we're insulting somebody who's in their 70s or 80s. And I think it's, you know, to your point, it's cutting that cord and allowing people to just be, you know, just to be them.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's transition into this conversation. I'm really excited about it. And it's a conversation around, as women, as we get older, as we get wiser, and we tune in and we realize that some things serve us really well and some of things don't serve us. You tuned in a while ago because I know you're healthy and you exercise and you know, you're aware of the food that you're putting in your body. And a few years back, you decided to stop drinking alcohol. And I want to have this conversation because it has hit the news and the media recently about this, like, hey, do you know now that, you know, we don't recommend any amount of ounces in a day or a week that we feel could benefit you. And I know that for so many years, we've been sold the, like, it's okay to have this much every day, or it's okay to have these many drinks in a week. But now the studies are like, you know what, any little bit can impact your health. Any little bit can impact your risk of disease, or for women, screw up your hormones, or for your red wine drinkers, it's, I can't sleep at night and now I have hot flashes. But we don't blame it on the alcohol, we blame it on the hormones, because that's the easy way. We don't want to look at it.
That's
so let's have that conversation. What made you decide to say no more alcohol for this body?
Well, I would have to say that for me, there was a couple of different factors, but I do want to sort of go back to where the piece on where countries are, like in North America, there is absolutely, without a doubt, a recognition of the damage that alcohol does to your body physically. I heard recently the American Cancer Association has identified at least 6 cancers that are related to alcohol consumption. And it doesn't have to be a lot of alcohol consumption, you know, that can cause that. And I'm not sitting here being the little teetotaler and saying, don't ever drink and don't do that. My choice was to stop. That doesn't mean that I'm saying everybody should stop. But I think we need to really look at what have we done to ourselves over the years. And, you know, to your point, the hot flashes, oh man, so I stopped drinking 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years this month, marks 4 years for me. And when I would have a drink, I would notice that not only was my sleep pattern screwed up, but the hot flashes at night were magnified well beyond what I would have thought. And the difference of not drinking, sleeping, I'm not experiencing hot flashes the way some women do. I think maybe genetically I'm fortunate from that perspective. But, you know, my skin is way better. I can share with everybody, I turned 60 last year. You know, I think it was the best choice that I made to stop drinking. Again, like the hair dye, gosh, I wish I had started, I wish I had made the decision earlier. But it also offers clarification and, you know, a clarity of thought in other ways. I mean, you sleep better, you know, it helps. You know, alcohol is a depressant, and, you know, a lot of people don't realize that it screws up your metabolism. You know, it slows down your ability to digest food properly. So there's a whole lot of other things that, you know, and I didn't have the healthiest relationship with alcohol either. And it just, to me, it was the choice that I needed to make at that point in my life. And I'm really happy that I did. So
amazing. I love
yeah.
that. I love that. And thank you for sharing that story, right? It's so important to have this conversation with women. And just like we
Hmm.
don't judge on the silver hair journey and whether you're doing it or not, but
Hmm.
it's we just need to bring a conversation and an awareness to what does that daily habit look like? Is it impacting your sleep? Could it be impacting your weight? Because I know a lot of women,
Yeah.
when we get into menopause, are complaining about the extra weight.
Right.
And what I can share and educate with women is, the first thing that the body is going to deal with if you're trying to lose weight, but you're putting alcohol in, the body will stop any type
Hmm.
of weight loss and it will go to helping support the liver manage and detox, and there won't be any weight loss going on. So it's kind of like you can't have your cake and eat it too. And especially as we get older, our bodies are more sensitive. So it's like, well, what do you want? Do you want weight loss or do you want to enjoy your alcohol? And so it's all about weight loss, but let me tell you, a lot of women, if I can say, if that's one of your big motivations, I would say
Hmm.
we either got to really reduce this over here and have what I call almost like treat meals, or once a week there's something to look forward to that's important
Right.
to you, or there's a celebration that you have that control and that awareness,
Right.
right?
Right.
Mhm.
And I think, if we want to peel a few layers of the onion away about alcohol, I think the other thing you have to ask yourself is, why do you have a drink?
Right. Yeah.
What's the reason?
Yeah.
Because people will drink because they're happy. People will drink because they're sad. People will drink to celebrate. People will drink because they've had a really crappy day.
Yeah.
So, the alcohol is also one of the romanticized drugs that
Mhm.
is on the planet. I mean, it is a drug. And it's something that, now it's pretty pretty eye-opening when you hear the Canadian government say, yeah, no, 2 drinks a week max.
Right.
Oops, there goes my earbud. But
Yeah.
it's just something that it isn't healthy for us.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself why. If you can prevent, or if without a drink you can have a better sleep. Without a drink, your hot flashes aren't going to be as bad.
Yeah.
Without a drink, you can have more success at losing weight. Without a drink, you can have more clarity of thought. You can feel more motivated. You can feel, all of a sudden you're getting time back.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you're saving money.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness, that's a huge one,
Right?
is the saving money.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to drink,
Yeah.
especially our young kids that get introduced so young to this sexy version of a drug because it's
Hmm.
advertised and it's what the kids do, but it's like every
Yeah.
penny goes to their alcohol habit, right? And then
Yeah.
yeah, that's a whole other story because I
Yeah.
have, kids playing in that realm right now, and I see
Yes.
firsthand where they're literally pinching pennies to get that bottle of alcohol that will
Yeah.
last them through the weekend, versus
Yeah.
saving and doing something with
Yeah.
it, right?
And
Mm-hmm.
there's people, if they're sober curious, there's some great non-alcoholic beverages out there.
Yeah,
You can see them all over the place. So there
yeah.
are other alternatives if you choose that you want to do that too. So
Right. And what I would
yeah.
just encourage women to do is play around with it. I know in my journey, when I was playing with reducing alcohol, I did my
Hmm.
first 30-day no booze challenge at the age of, I think I was about 47, kind of around the first time I
Hmm.
decided to change. And honestly, that those first 30 days with no booze, and I probably hadn't done that since I was either pregnant or since I was a young teenager, had taken
Hmm.
30 days off. And I was like, wow, I can't believe how much better I feel. I can't believe how much
Yeah.
more energy I feel, how better I sleep.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah.
just even like it impacts your hungry hormone. So I find
Yeah.
drinking alcohol, especially at night, which most people do, it screws up your hungry hormones and it makes you even hungrier the next day, so that you find that
Yeah.
you're now wanting more calories because you just
Right.
put a bunch of empty calories in. and you ended up
Right.
putting a lot of sugar in. So you create
Right.
sugar imbalances. And
Yeah.
of course, we've got the whole issue of brain health and how it impacts brain, and it feeds the bad bacteria in your gut. So
Right.
we could go on, but
We
I'm
could.
glad that
We
we
could.
just had this conversation. Because I haven't talked a lot about it yet in my podcast about alcohol, and I will probably have
Mhm.
some other experts that will come on
Yeah.
later on in the year. But this is a great start to a conversation of just encouraging women to take a peek at your alcohol consumption, your habit, and to maybe look at, like you said, there's lots of support online. There's trying to think of that one lady that it was probably one of my first books that I read about her. She's quite famous. On Instagram, and she has a whole group that I'm in, mindful something.
Oh, I
You
think
know
I
what I'm
know.
talking about?
Yeah, and I can't think of who it is either.
Yeah, I could
Yes.
probably find her. But anyways, I started off with groups and support and doing 30-day
Mhm.
challenges, and then it was a 3-month challenge, and then I did a 6-month, and then I was like, I can go out for alcohol with an entire
Mhm.
year. So you build upon it, and that didn't happen
Mhm.
overnight.
No.
And
No.
just encourage women to just tune in. I say we always have the
Yeah.
answers. We're wise.
Yeah.
As every year we get wiser.
Yeah.
Tune in, and you have the answers
Yeah,
inside
for
you to
sure. For
guide
sure.
you. Kathleen, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I loved your
Thank
story.
you.
I love the conversation about your healthy lifestyle and inspiring women to look and feel good at your age,
Thank you.
and empower yourself to a beautiful life. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate
Oh,
it. What a
thank
great
you.
episode to share.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it too. Appreciate it so
Awesome.
much.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
I want to say thank you for listening to today's episode. If this message landed for you, make sure to leave a review and tag me, Nicole Scott, at Gorgeous Grey Movement, and make sure to share with your friends. You can head over to my free Facebook community, Gorgeous Grey Movement, or subscribe to my YouTube channel for more inspiring interviews. If you are still struggling and need additional support, you can take a look at my website, nicolescott.ca, and learn more about my new Menopause Reset program that I'm so excited for. Until next time, ladies, be well and own your sparkle.